Today I'm joined by Ron Zwerver. Ron is three-time Olympian, Olympic champion 1996, silver medalist 1992, Volleyball Hall of Famer, selected, awarded as best server at the 1998 Olympics, 1992 Olympics, best attacker at the World Championships 1990 and 1994. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you.
Ron, considering you have been selected as the best server at 2 Olympic Games, what makes a good server in volleyball?
Oh boy. First of all, I think that it's talent. And I love the first moment that I joined volleyball. I love to set up the ball in the air, to jump to it and give a big smash out of it. That was a lot of fun. It's fun. And then you notice that the opponent has some difficulties with these, so that has more fun even though. And then you notice, I can serve to that direction, or I can serve short, or I can serve deep. So you discover your own body, your own strength, and it gives you confidence. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. If social media would have been around in 1996, we should have had, for fun, Krajicek against Zwerver, who is the best server.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah, that's true. Because I tried to play tennis, and the first 5-10 minutes was terrible. The balls goes out and whatever. But within 15 minutes, I could serve whatever I want. So that was interesting to see. The only thing that you have is that racket.
Yeah.
Because normally you don't have that racket, so that's a little bit a mistiming.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because with that racket, the ball goes harder.
Yeah.
You have a more swing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I used to play tennis myself, and then in university when I played volleyball, the serving was pretty intuitive just because the movement is somewhat similar.
Yeah, that's true. Because when I did the talent team, the juniors team, sometimes I had some players who previous did a sport like tennis. And I rather these kind of players because they know already the foot drill. So they can move with the foot very good. Only in volleyball, you have to get the ball nearby you. Instead of tennis, you have to go away from you. So that was different. But they had natural already a good arm swing. So that was fun to watch.
Yeah. Ron, in your athletic life, what was your darkest moment?
Boy, there's a lot of dark moments because that's all about insecurity for yourself. And I think the darkest moment at my point was the moment that I have to consider to ask some players to leave the team. We were busy with an Olympic dream, and we said, well, we stick together the whole time. But then you had some interesting offers, financial offers of European clubs like Italy. And some players said, well, I rather have the money and I want to play the Olympics. Instead of, that was my vision, let's stick together because we do it differently than all the other teams. So we can go ahead. If we do the same as Italy, then we never will beat them because every time we're going behind. We do the same thing like Italy. So let's do it differently and let's offers are up, or how do you say that? How to sacrifice us, but to invest in our time being together.
Yeah.
And well, unfortunately, some players sign a contract and they leave the team. Or I said, well, I don't want to play with you anymore. So that was also an ego standard for me. And we go to the World Championships in 1990, and then we became fourth or something. And that was tough because, well, the after I said to some players who stand in the team, 3 players at least, you quit the team, but still we are fourth. That's good. That's a very good result. But at that moment, I saw the podium and I saw the gold medals, the silver medals, the bronze medals. And they call my name. And they call my name because I was the best attacker, I think, and also, again, the best server. But I didn't have a teaming award. I don't have the gold, the silver, or the bronze. So that was the moment that I realized, why are you playing volleyball? If you're playing volleyball, you like to be in a team. You need the team players. And at that moment, I thought, well, you are just an individual athlete. You can do also tennis, for instance, but you are a team player. So that was the moment that I realized that I need the players around me to achieve my goal. And that was a hard lesson because you feel lonely, you feel sadness, you get overwhelmed by negative press, all kind of circumstances. And you're not only fighting against the ball to get the ball on the floor, you're fighting also against, that's your feeling, your surrounding, like press, like other players, like you have to prove something to somebody else. So that was a hard and very learning time. And fortunately, I could transfer that to get better, also mentally. That is important. So it was a hard time at that moment.
Yeah. And you guys missed out on the Olympic title in 1992, and you clinched the Olympic title in 1996. How were the years between 92 and 96?
Totally different, because at that moment, after the Olympics of Barcelona 1992, everybody decides to learn something, a new experience in Italy, for instance, because that was the professional league mostly. So there were guys going to Germany, to Italy. So therefore, we learned some other skills, some extra skills, to be one of the stars in another team with Italian guys. And at that moment, before 92, I said, well, let's keep together because we have to stick together to do it differently. So we did that. Well, not everybody, but a part of the group did that. And after that, I said also, well, now I signed my professional contract, not only for the money, because money was important, of course, but also to get that new experience to be a foreign star player in Italy. Because if you win, Italian wins. If you lose, that's the foreigner. That's the Dutch guy. So that is a different kind of pressure that you have.
Yeah.
And we learned that because everybody was playing with a different club. They play also, so that's also important. They didn't sit on the bench, so they get that experience. So that was important. So everything. So the 4 or 5 years before 92, and the new experience to play in a professional league and to play at least 70 matches and being on finals, like final Scudetto or final Coppa Italia or final whatever it is, you learn, you get that experience. And you get that experience from losing or winning the game. You win, you learn more from losing. If you're mental good, you're winning more from losing the game than winning the game. Because you are forced to think what you did wrong. Yeah. And therefore, with all that experience, with that team, and we travel already 3 times around the world with that team, so we knew each other. We are not friends with each other. We don't go on vacation with each other, but we know exactly what we are doing, and therefore the expectations to each other, and therefore we could be hard to ourselves, but also to somebody else, and not taking it personally. So that was the system that nobody told us, nobody guided us, but that was our experience. And of course, it wasn't not always fun. It was ups and downs and some big fights sometimes with inside the team, with players, but also with coaches. But at the end, it was about one thing. That was the goal to be one of the best team and not one of the best individual, because that was 6 years before in the World Championship in 1990 when I was everything, but I didn't have a medal.
Yeah.
So that's a big answer, right?
Yeah, it's interesting what you just said about your experience in Italy. In a previous conversation I had with Bas van der Goor, he said exactly the same, and he mentioned your name as one of the persons who helped him adjust better to the new circumstances.
Yeah, and that is, of course, that you have to experience that. You can tell, you can read books about it, like former Olympians, what they do, but the most of it is what do you do at that moment? What do you feel? Well, how do you open up to it or not? Are you getting small, or you coming up with your own opinion about your own norms, your own values? So that is important, and I learned that the hard way. I don't say that is the best way, of course not, but fortunately I have good people surround me outside the sports that put me on the ground, like my parents or my girlfriend or friends what I had. And sometimes you're not fortunate to have that, and then you go the different direction, and that's that happens.
Yeah. What happened in 1999? You retired 1 year before the Sydney Olympics?
1999. No, I quit.
The question is, why didn't you go for the fourth?
No, I quit earlier with the national team. So I became Olympic champion in '96, and then there is a different story. 2 weeks after the Olympics, my first child was born. So my wife was pregnant, so she couldn't give birth also during the Olympics, the final. That's also a possibility. So my life was changed in that way, and I already said after I won the Olympics that I want to play the final of the World Cup in December 1996 in December. And then I said to my wife at that moment, I will quit the national team because I like to play volleyball still, but the club is 9 months and I don't want to be in the summer again with the national team. So I quit the European Championships in 1997 in Holland. So that was the moment that I said, well, I win everything. And it was hard to find the motivation. That sounds maybe strange, but at that moment I had the feeling I didn't find the motivation to win the European Championships in Holland. Although it was European Championships, it wasn't the Olympics. I won everything that I wanted, and I wanted once, and that was for me enough. And with the club, I won everything, sometimes twice or 3 times, like the Scudetto in Italy, the championships of Italy.
Yeah. And in your opinion, having been a player of the Dutch national team, basically being on top of the world for 3 Olympic Games, what happened to the Dutch national team after that?
Boy, that is difficult to explain because I'm not there at that moment. So I see that on television. There was a different coach at that moment. And they achieved, I think they qualify the last moment for the Sydney Olympics. And then some other teams were better, like Serbia was very good at that moment. And they achieved, I don't know, 4th or 5th place, and everything went down from that on. Because also, it was pretty extraordinary that we had 2 or 3, how do you say that? I'm struggling with the word of generations. So we have 2 or 3 generations that were pretty good volleyball players. And from each generation came 2 or 3 guys. And if somebody is good in the national team, they will stay at least 10 years. So we had the luxury that we have 2 or 3 generations of good volleyball players. And normally with the population of Holland or the population of volleyball players in Holland, that's not big, right? We have now, at this moment, right now, I think we have around 100 and something more, 102,000 people who are playing volleyball in a competition way. And you know that boys are, if 5 girls are playing volleyball, one is a boy. So it's if you go to Russia or you go to Brazil or you go to America, for instance, there is a bunch of, because the countries are bigger, so you have more selected players to choose about. So that's also, sometimes you see it's going up and it's going down, it's going up, it's going down. And for instance, now with the national team of women, it goes good because you have some generations are very good. But for men, it's struggling. Not only the numbers who play in volleyball, but also talent. And that's a pity. And that is, unfortunately, it could happen.
Yeah. What was your best moment?
Well, best moment in volleyball is, of course, the moment that you realize that you win the gold medal. And that was a very strange feeling to realize that. I saw, I think 2 weeks ago, the documentary about the handball female players. That was funny. They said the same thing about the moment that they win the world champion title. They were in the locker room and they are sitting on the bench and they watch each other and they said, well, you're world champion. And the other one said, yeah, you are also world champion. And that was the same feeling that I had in the locker room after we won the Olympics, that we say, hey, you are Olympic champion. Yeah, you are also. That's so strange because every time you're looking ahead to something that you wanted, and now it's done. It's nothing. It's okay. You're Olympic champion. And now what? No, nothing, because you achieved that. That's it. So that is a strange feeling, but also it's so incredible to describe, because the smile that you have after that for at least 2 weeks, that is incredible. Every time you wake up, comes a big smile on you. I think the first week I put my medal on my pillow. It's so strange.
Yeah,
it's so strange.
I had the chance to speak to Inge de Bruin, and she basically said she would wish everyone to experience that feeling of becoming Olympic champion.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's an incredible feeling because it gives you so much trust in yourself. That's also mentally a thing, because you are struggling, and it's for a few of 100,000 people playing volleyball. You get that chance and you take it, and unfortunately on that day at that time you get the gold medal. So that was incredible.
Yeah. If you could travel back in time 20, 30 years, what advice would you give a younger Ron?
Boy, that is of course you're more experienced. What is experience? Experience is a bunch of failures, because that is experience what it is. And that is interesting because you know now what is important in life. And I think to give advice for young kids is, the fun is very important, but top sports is not always fun, because it's high performance sports. And sometimes you have to stick in it. You have to learn that. You have to be mental toughness. But at the other time, I wish that I had at that time people who are standing in a social way to say, hey, that's normal if you feel lonely. Hey, that is normal that you don't want to practice. Hey, that is normal that you feel pressure from outside. It's totally normal. So that is what I wish, and I think it's already getting better in the high sports surrounding, especially also with the NOC, NSF. there are some experts, but still, to find the balance, it's difficult because in the focus of top sport, of high performance sports, you are surrounded with people who said what is good for you, instead of you thinking self about what is really good for me. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah.
And that is hard because sometimes it's getting in your way because you're so young, you don't know. You have a big coach against you, and he has already 40 years in that sport, so you go for it. For instance, for me, Ari Selinger was for me almost a volleyball god because he knows everything. So that's very difficult to argue with him because who I'm a little guy who don't have experience. He knows the way. So, but sometimes it's good to have people surround you, and I wish a lot of athletes for it, that they are guided by these kind of people. And maybe that's my future career. Who knows?
Yeah. You were assistant coach at the University of Oregon. And when your time came to an end, I saw you put something on social media along the lines that you always wanted to have this opportunity of working in a university setting.
Yeah, that's
How was
true.
that?
Well, that's a funny story. I was, first of all, I was assistant coach. After that, after 1 year, I was associate head coach. So that is a little bit different in naming, but it gives you more pleasure because why I get more responsibilities. Why I wanted to go to America. First of all, I played as player, play a lot of in America. So I saw the facilities were incredible. I thought that top sports in America was also about the mental toughness of Americans. So I want to have that experience also. And then I went to Hawaii, University of Hawaii, because one of my former players was study there and play sports. So I went there for, I think, 2 weeks or something, and I saw the circumstances, how they play, and how college sports was organized, and especially what universities does with sports. What is important sport at the university? That is about giving the name to the university. It was about the buildings. It was about the facilities. Everything is like sports was like marketing for their university. They getting a student to go there. The backside or the negative side is what I think is you have to pay a lot of money to study at the university wherever you go to America. So you're paying for the buildings and you're paying for the coaches. That's it. Yeah. But I want to see how the competition will start. So I saw that, and then at that moment I said, well, I can do that. So therefore, I had a connection with Oregon State, and I knew that the team was once in a 4 year, and a college team can go over Europe to play some tournaments. And at that moment, they came to Amsterdam, and they're flying back to, I thought it was Rome or whatever it is, a typical American trip. So they go to Rome, Venice, Paris, and they go back, right? So I saw them on, I had an appointment in Amsterdam on the airport, Schiphol, and I talked with the coach, and at that moment he was a new coach and he was looking for an assistant coach, and well, we had a conversation, and he thought, well, it would be difficult because for a foreigner coach it's very, very difficult to get a visa to work in America. But at the end he said, let's try it and let's see how it functions. And well, fortunately, within 2 weeks, I get a visa. And well, I go to Oregon State. So that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of college sports. It was totally different than high performance sports. But it was interesting to see how the connection is between the different sports programs and how they integrated the college, the student athletes, the students, how they did the marketing and everything. So it was Yeah, it was very interesting. It was tough because my family was here, and 9 out of 12 months I was in America. But it was a big experience, and well, everything in America is big and huge and great and fantastic and go on. And but I saw also the dark side of it. So it
Yeah.
was for me a very learning experience how sports is organized in America at the college level.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I have in my head, which you just alluded to, is you were there for 9 months and the family was in the Netherlands. What would be your advice for coaches in that situation? Because very often we see that if coaches and families are divided, that then families break apart. How did
Yeah.
you make it work?
Well, it's hard because it was on my bucket list, and I said to my family, and I know my wife already when I was 16, 17 years old, so she knows me much better, maybe better than I know myself. But we knew that it would be difficult. I have 2 kids. They're already grown up, so they're starting up their own life, and I cannot force them to come with me. What I can say to my wife, just come over for at least a few weeks and see how it goes. So what my advice is for everybody it's different, because sometimes you have no children, sometimes you have children, but then it depends on how small they are or how big they are. So it's difficult. It's all about your situation. And and I can say after 4 years being separate from my family and having some bad experience in my private life. My mother-in-law is died 1 year ago, so that was a big issue, and my mother had cancer. So therefore, then the distance is very big, and my responsibility to my family felt immense, and my family needed me. So what I said is my private situation is always different from others, because the first year is great, everything is new, everything goes fast, the family comes, oh, it's great, it's fantastic. Second year was if you saw the results of Oregon State's getting up because I get more influence, it's getting better. We qualify for the finals. That was my goal. My goal was volleyball wise, not life wise. That was volleyball wise. But then the third year, there was a big. We got some injuries, no good results, and then also some private things happens. Yeah, and then this. Well, you have to be in balance to do that. If you get energized, then it's no problem if you have that way of life. But if it goes tough, well, everybody has their own decisions. Like what I said already, when I was a player,
Yeah.
sometimes felt that the contract that they offered in Italy was very important. I was 18, I don't care, but the other player was 28. The 10 years difference. So that is a different. They have different values. They have different opportunities. They could play another maybe 4 years professional, and I could play another 10 years as professional. So you cannot compare you have different lifestyles and different lives, different values. So that's what I learned. But it was on my bucket list, and unfortunately I have a relationship who says, well, I cannot stop you if you want it. You do it always, so let's do it. But we have a very good conversation. If it doesn't go anymore, I have to go back. So therefore, since March this year, I'll be back here in Holland.
Yeah. I ask you for one more piece of advice and then we move on. Considering you are specialized in talent development, what would you say are the most important things for coaches to consider when developing talent?
When I walked into a gym, I don't give practice immediately. I watch how everybody is moving. I know exactly what the best spiker can do. I have exactly a visual picture or video of a perfect block, of a perfect spike, of a perfect dig, whatever it is. But I cannot put it straight on the same players, female or male. So that is first of all, what kind of group is it? What can they do? What cannot? What is not natural? So the natural movement is very important. And I know from experience, from my own experience, that I love to work with what I'm good in it. I want to be perfect. What I'm not good in it, I don't like it. So if you put 80% of your time in things that I can't do it, fuck it, I don't do it. And therefore, I think it's very important to, if you want to build up some talent, know exactly what he or she will energize him. That's important. And watch carefully how he or she is moving. Start with that. And then if you're working with that, and that's technical, you're thinking about tactical, from technical to tactical. And then what is very important is to develop him as a human, not only as a sports athlete, but he has some needs. He needs some attention outside the court. Everybody is different, so be open to it. Don't try to put a copy of yourself into it, because that's what I've started also. That's the mistake I made also in the Netherlands when I started as a coach. And then, fortunately, again, I had a good coach with me who said, "Well, you have to do it differently, because you were that talented that you don't know exactly what you're doing in the spike. But maybe for him, that's not the issue. You have to teach him what you do." So I go back to the basics. And that was a very learning and intense process. But it gives me more as a human being, and not as you are winning the gold medal. No, it's more like that. It's you have to develop different kind of aspects, and not only tactical, but also as a human being. Mentally, it's so important these ways.
Yeah.
Even more, I think, than in my days, because, well, social media is big, and thumbs up is very important. So you have to be stronger in your shoes than 30 years ago.
Yeah. What are the habits that make you a successful person or athlete?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have. I know that when I was a volleyball player, I put first my left kneecap on and then my right kneecap on. But I know that's nonsense. I think I don't have any habits of no. I don't. That's for me a difficult question, because I don't have a routine. Not really. When I was a player, maybe, but that was more from insecurity. Do the same thing, because it gives you something, but at the end, it doesn't matter. That's what I know.
It's probably interesting to hear you just mentioned insecurities.
Yeah.
You are an Olympic champion. You are a Volleyball Hall of Famer. You have been selected best server, best attacker. Where do insecurities come in?
Every time starts a new match on 0-0, and you have to jump to the ball, to smash the ball and put it on the ground. That's 1-0. So everything starts again on 0. You have to prove every time, every practice, every whatever it is, in different circumstances, in different areas, or in Asia, or in Cuba, or in South America, or whatever. You have to prove your standard. And that is interesting to know, that you mention all the titles. So that's great. But if you see that the titles as a big mountain, there is, on the top of the mountain is thin air. And you cannot stay there at thin air your whole life. You start every time, you start 200 or 300 meters under it because you can breathe. And you need to breathe to practice, to get sometimes, maybe once in a year, hopefully 2 times a year in thin air. But then you drop again back. Because on the top of the mountain, there are some, it's not a big space, it's a few space. There is only place for a few people. And you can live there maybe for, I don't know, maybe one day, but then you don't have air anymore because you have to go back. And that is insecurity. Insecurity is, I don't know if I can reach every, I liked the view on the top. I love it. It's how you say that? You want to do it every time because it's like candy. You want more candy and more and more. You get addicted to it, but it's so hard to be there because you know what you have to do before you get to the thin air. And that is where insecurity is coming from. And nobody realized that because everybody is putting the big medals. I have also the big medals and whatever it is on my wall with shirts and Scudetto and fantastic and you're great and Hall of Famer. But that was only that moment, thin air.
Yeah, that's a really nice analogy. I've never heard it before, but makes it very visual.
Yeah.
Do you have a morning routine?
I'm sorry. Coffee. That's important for me. No, I don't have morning routines. No. Because every time it's different what I'm doing. Sometimes I have to go away in the morning. Sometimes I stay here to 12 o'clock and do differently. So no, what I'm doing, I'm not a sleeper. So I'm normally at 8, at 7:30, I'm already wake up. And I want to have a purpose. So I want to know what I'm doing.
Yeah. As an athlete, how was your morning routine?
That was depending on the program, of course, because in Italy when I was a professional player at the club, we had normally some Mondays and Wednesdays that we had to practice early. Tuesday, Thursday in the afternoon, Friday a little bit, and Saturday the match, or if it was away, then we have to travel already Thursday or Friday. So that was different. But what I did as an athlete, when I had 2 practices a day, I slept between the 2 practices. Yeah. So normally I went to bed at 2 till 4 or whatever, took a nap, and then at 5 o'clock we start again till 8 o'clock or whatever. Yeah. And that was fine by me. I felt very good, but at the end of my career, it was more like I have had it. Yeah, but that's normal. If you are in the beginning of your career, everything is great. You do the best thing that you. And I loved volleyball. I loved to play. I was already 7 years old when I played with a ball in my bed. Yeah. To set the ball nearby the ceiling, right? So close by that was a game for me. Everything was a game. Yeah. When I walked to school, I know there was a tree, and then I want to touch that how you say that tak, die tak. Yeah. Oh, that was interesting, and in the summer it was easy because it was all the bladen, how you call that? I don't know.
Yeah, the leaves.
The leaves, yeah. So that was everything was in my head was volleyball. I'm very picturizing about and making some imagines how it goes, everything.
Yeah. How do you prepare yourself for important moments?
I prepared. I'm be fully prepared. So I know exactly what the circumstances are, and I know that the circumstances are changing, what I can do. If something happens what I didn't prepare, I go back to the basics, what I think what is right for me or for the team, or if I'm now in normal life, like social life, I go back to what I am. I'm not faking it. So that is, that's I'm pretty good prepared every time.
Yeah. And then if we go back to that Olympic final in 1996, the fifth set was very close towards the end, right? So I think you were match point up, then equal. I'm not sure whether you were down or not, but it was close.
Yeah.
How did you stay strong in that time?
It was for us the history of playing against Italy that we play already. I think that was number 10 of the matches against Italy. We play already 10 matches. Normally we were losing 80% of all the matches. Why? Because Italy is just individually better, but as a team they're struggling. And the first that we won against Italy was 3 weeks before the Olympics, during the World League finals in Rotterdam. That was the first time that we beat them just 1 point, also in the fifth set. So that gives us a confidence. But that confidence, that was thin air, that was only at that moment. Because during the Olympics, you started with 0-0, right? So we knew that we could win then. That was good. But we knew also that we, at that moment, the previous tournaments we were already busy with. If we win, then we have to beat them, and we are thinking ahead about all the different scenarios. But at that moment, we play at that moment, in that time. And if they serve, they serve. Then what we have to do, we pass. We don't thinking about, okay, if he serves, then probably Peter will set the ball to the outside and then I will hit. No, we're just thinking at that moment. Everybody was at that moment. And that was maybe the flow at that moment, I don't know. But it gives us also the confidence of, we'll see what happens. I do my best. Better I can. We're not concerning about the outcome. We're not concerning about losing. We're even not thinking about winning. We were at that moment. And if that moment something happens, so he's the Italy guy hits the ball and he spiked the ball off of the block, we run. And then somebody was busy with getting the ball in the air. Where the ball comes, we are busy with where the ball comes, the ball must go up. And then Peter decides where the ball goes, to the left side or to the right side. I don't care. If it goes to the left side, okay, then it's my job to hit the ball. If the ball goes to the right side, it's my job to cover that guy. So we were in that moment, I think. That was our strength. Because if you hear also the stories about Bas van der Goor, what he was thinking the last moments, he wasn't aware about what the stand was, right?
Yeah.
What the score was.
He said that.
And that was interesting to see.
Yeah.
And of course, at the end, the last ball, that I get the last ball, that I knew that was the last ball, that I could spike the ball on the ground, and we were Olympic champion. Of course, you know that, but it was interesting to see. We had so many experience. We played so many finals. We lose so many finals. We won some finals, but we knew also that the Olympic is something magical, that we knew. And that's, well, if you put pressure on yourself like that, that's totally normal, and it's human. But can you handle that as a team? Well, at that moment, at that time, we could. And still, well, you have that interview with me because we did it after almost 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
It is. How do you overcome setbacks?
Setbacks. Well, there's a lot of setbacks in your career. That's normal. But I think, again, I think I had I had the fortune that I had surrounded with people who can help me. and said, well, it's fine. It's okay if you don't feel well, or it's okay if you lose a final, or yeah, that's fine. So it depends on people surround you, because it's a possibility that you get nuts from yourself, because you are so driven and you want to be the best and you're not good enough for yourself, and it's a good aspect for sports, but if it goes to a negative spiral, yeah, then you have a big issue. So go back to the people that you really trust, and sometimes it's into the sport, sometimes it's outside the sports. You find something, but never be aware that winning or losing doesn't make you a bad or good human being. And a lot of athletes, especially in high performance sports, are willing to believe that if you win gold, you're a good person. If you don't win gold, you're a bad person. And that is not true. And that is very important.
Yeah. We would have only very few good people if that would be true, huh?
Yeah, that's true. And your whole character that you build up, and your whole motives, how do you do that, and all your setbacks is your experience. Mm. And if you have a lot of setbacks, you have a lot of experience. That's great, because then you realize that you are you are forced to think about the mistakes that you made at that moment.
Yeah.
So, well,
good. Who is your role model and why?
I don't have a role model really. Not in sports. What I like is I at that moment, I'm now 53. I like to read about the career, the stories of people, how they handle things. That's what I like. So therefore, I picked this from her. I picked this from him. So it's interesting to see how everything is going. I like documentary about businesses, but also sportsmen or whatever. Like the whole Michael Jordan thing. It's great. Playbook. It's very interesting for me on Netflix. So these kind of things. I don't have a particular role model. I'm glad that I have parents who are totally normal. And tell me to go back on 2 feet on the air, and I'm still your son. Also, you win a gold medal or not, or you play in division I don't know 7, whatever it is. I'm still your father. You're still my son. So I think that is basically what you trying to do. So role model, yeah, but your role model is also depending on what kind of experience and what kind of setbacks you had, the way you wanted to do, how do you cross it, what is your relationships, and so on and so on. So I think a lot of people are very interesting in certain ways. And I picked my thing about that.
What is the best advice you received and who gave it to you?
The best advice. Ooh. I think the best advice that somebody is, what I learned is say what you do and do what you say. Yeah. And why is that? Because it gives me so much more than only like Nike, just do it. Because it tells me about your behavior. So if you tell something, if you say loudly what you do, you make a commitment to yourself, right? And if you do what you say, it gives you immediately behavior. And behavior is your behavior is so much more important than what you tell you, because that gives you trust to the coaches, to your team players. So you stand something for it. You're not afraid to do something. Even though the circumstances are scary, the circumstances are, I don't know, uncertain, whatever. But then it gives you character. And that is important about the trust that you can give and the trust that you can get, because it's always in team sport is giving and taking. And therefore, I think that senses what I learned in sports is because it means so much to me in behavior, in trust, in also in communication. So how do you communicate? Why do you communicate? How do you communicate? And where do you communicate? And that is easy to say. I'm now 53. I don't have that capacity, or not exactly when I was an athlete. But that is what you learn later on. And you how you said it? You go back to that movie when you was a player. So you're thinking about why I said to the player, just go away, I don't want to play you anymore. That was an ego. Why you have that ego? Well, you're thinking about that. And therefore, say what you do and do what you say is, for me, that implicates so much more than only just do it.
Yeah, I like that one. I agree fully.
Yeah.
Back in the days, how did a typical training day look like?
My training day, like when I was a volleyball player, you mean?
Yes.
Well, it depends on the program, of course, when you was for the national team or you was for the club. But for instance, when I was by the professional club, we practiced at least 3, 5, 7, 8 times a week with a match. And there was a lot of traveling. So it depends also on the schedule of traveling, playing outside your gym or in the south of Italy or whatever. So we were fortunate that we play always for the championship, so we could invest something in the beginning of the season, and then we go when it was March, up the end of in March, April, we could train less to get in shape to win the Champions League and the National League. So that was the fun months. The fun months were at least March, April, and May. That was fun. The rest was tough. November, December, now January, February. They're dark months.
Yeah.
Because of practice. Because you come out your bed, it was dark. You go back into your apartment, it's just dark. You sleep between the 2 practices, it's dark. You travel a lot. That's not fun. These kind of things.
Yeah. Do you want to nominate someone to be interviewed?
Yeah, I want to nominate somebody because she is a little bit younger than me. She's quitting, but she has an interesting story, I think. She's an interesting story because she was struggling also with her as herself, like a performer. She did some Olympic Games, and her name is Edith Bosse, judoka.
I know it.
And I think she is interesting because after she quit her career, she did that television program, Robinson Island. So she was immediately after the surrounding of top sports, like all high performance settings and all kind of that. She comes on an island with different people, with normal people or people who are famous in their own way. So she is, I think her book, that was very interesting. And now she is trying to guide these kind of players. That's also what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think maybe she is interesting to see how it goes. Another one is my nephew. My nephew is playing now in Italy, professional volleyball, Dicky Cohen. He was playing in the national team in the Netherlands, but he is married with an Italian girl, so he's now Italian. And because the national team is not qualified for the Olympics, he is now maybe he can qualify if he is invited by the Italian national team, because he's now more than 2 or 3 years Italian. maybe it's a possibility to come to that group, and he goes to the Olympics with a totally national team, with a different surrounding, because he said when he was still is a national a Dutch passport. He said, "Well, I'm going to Italy. I'm marrying my wife in a different circumstances. His life is in Italy, and now he's trying to be part of the national team in Italy. So that's also interesting. But I saw that your questions are also from maybe a different sports, maybe a different whatever it is. But I thought, well, it could be also an interesting case.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so that is the two what I nominate.
Really cool. What's going on in the life of Ron Zwerver at this moment in time?
Interesting. It's an interesting time. Well, I already said that I'm back from the United States in March. So my plan was I will do something in a high performance sports organization, whatever sport it is, not particular volleyball, but maybe something else, because I think my backpack is full. But at this moment, it's totally locked up. So there's nothing for me to do. There's no position to go for, because everybody's waiting till the Olympics is done, maybe next year. So I'm figuring out what I'm doing. I do three things that I'm working on at this moment. Something in volleyball. It's uploading your video, your video match, and you want to analyze it by experts. Also for players who are playing in the second division or third division, whatever. So that's a startup. That's interesting, I think, because I can build from an online environment the knowledge of volleyball. That's interesting. Even though in a village, I don't know, in the east or in the north or in the south of the Netherlands. So that's what I'm working on. That's first of all. Second of all, I'm very interested about circumstances, what I heard now from high performance athletes, that they are struggling with motivation, or also in their second legacy. The first legacy is, of course, their sports life, but the second legacy is more important. That is the social life, and they can work for another 30 years after that. So I'm working on that to guide them. What is the best moment to also looking for their second legacy? So that is interesting to know. And I'm busy with some female players, young students who wants to play in America. So I'm for a scholarship. So that's also what I'm busy with. But we'll see what happens. It is just I'm just busy with it and see how it develops. But everything is related to my backpack, what I had, and to guide people who are ambitious. That is for me important, and to want to do something with their talent.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of knowledge and experience to share. There is this quote from Isaac Newton, and he said, like, if I have been able to look further than anyone else, it's because I've been standing on the shoulders of giants. So if people could stand on your shoulders, I'm pretty sure they can look further.
Yeah, that's a nice quote. I like that. That's what I hope that I can do much better. Because if you tell me the question about what do you want to give talent at your age, I think to stand on that giant and to go further than when I was at that moment.
Yeah,
the circumstances are much better at this moment than 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah. And technology makes it much more easy now to connect.
That's true, but it's also it could be also dangerous.
Absolutely. Ron, where can people find you?
Oh, they can link me with LinkedIn, so that's easy. I don't have a website yet, but the most that's the best. I'm be on Facebook and of course on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is the most normal way to connect.
Ron, thanks a lot for your time. That was awesome.
Okay, thank you.